Science behind the fiction. Humans as batteries. As in the Matrix. Probably not going to happen. This is an article from 2019, and some of you might remember this disturbing scene from the film The Matrix, when Neo, quote, wakes up, or actually literally wakes up and realizes that he's just inside one of these pods in a big pod farm where everyone is basically asleep and doesn't know it, and they're just sitting here like babies in a womb, imagining their whole life or living in some digital world, Matrix-like world. What a creepy scene that was. I remember being pretty scared and freaked out by this imagery. There's just something about it that just gets to the core of something in your psyche. Maybe it's not as scary today to people as it was when it came out, or maybe it is. I don't know. I just know my own experience when I first saw it. Well, I was thinking of that when I saw this article from just a few days ago, which appeared on interestingengineering.com. China firm plans world's first pregnancy humanoid robot using artificial womb. Look at that. How creepy is that? A China tech firm is racing to deliver what could be the world's first gestation robot. The idea from Kaiwa Technology, based in Guangzhou, which is a city in China, I guess, involves a humanoid designed with an artificial womb embedded in its abdomen, intended to carry a fetus through 10 months of gestation and deliver a baby, according to Chinese media outlets. Slated for debut by 2026 and expected to sell for under 100,000 yuan, around $13,900, the robot aims to offer a pregnancy alternative for those who wish to avoid the burdens of human gestation. The burdens of human gestation, what does that make you think of? Genesis 3:16, to the woman he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Well, isn't that nice? We can get around that now. We can avoid the burdens of human gestation now with this thing. How nice. Recently, Chinese researchers introduced GEAIR, the world's first AI-powered breeding robot, capable of autonomous cruising and cross-pollination to cut costs, shorten cycles, and boost efficiency. Wow, we're really breaking the whole pregnancy cycle down into like a machine-like structure, aren't we here? Humanoid birth machine. Use that in a pickup line at a bar this Friday night. The bold vision of a humanoid surrogate pregnancy robot was presented at the 2025 World Robot Conference in Beijing by Zhang Qifeng, founder of Kaiwa Technology and affiliated with Nanyang Technological University, according to ECNS.
显示，谈及研发初衷，张吉峰表示满足有的人的他不想结婚，又想有老婆的需求。
Seems to be the very masculine man behind this concept. Zhang Qifeng. And did you catch what he said there? To satisfy some people, he doesn't. I think this is a bad translation. I think what it's supposed to say is to satisfy some people that don't want to get married. The need for a wife. In other words, oh, isn't this great? We can get rid of the inconvenience of needing a wife to, have a baby and stuff. I mean, isn't this another example of a man sort of trying to replace a woman? Not to get all political here, but it's inevitable when you're talking about a topic like this. This is a guy, if you saw him at a bar, you'd think, oh yeah, he has no game. He can't meet women at all, but he's probably rich and he probably just buys women or buys them off. It's the ultimate control freak, passive male. Is like, all right, yeah, you got all the control in the bar here, but once we leave, I'm going to be eliminating your wife, and I'm going to create a machine that gives birth. So how do you like that? According to Qifeng, it is not merely an incubator, but a life-sized humanoid equipped with an artificial womb in its abdomen, capable of replicating the entire process from conception to delivery. Entire process? Just wondering where sex happens in that process. Are we talking about robots just walking around, picking up on each other, having sex, having babies. This is getting really scary really quick. What happens to the humans? Where did they go? Where do they go after they're born now in this world where robots are sort of doing everything we used to do? The core innovation lies in artificial womb technology, where a fetus develops in artificial amniotic fluid and receives nutrients through a hose, mimicking natural gestation. I mean, this sounds just like the Matrix. Look, he's got this little hose on the back of his neck. He's in this fluid. He's all glistening because when he comes out, see the fluid? And he has to pull this tube out from his back. I mean, Dr. Zhang claimed the technology is already mature in laboratory settings and now needs integration into a humanoid form. Wait a minute. It's already mature in laboratory settings? What is a laboratory setting? Well, something like this, isn't it? It sounds like they're already doing this. How long have they been doing it? What's happening to the babies that are being bred this way? Are they just organ harvesting them? Or, you hear about this in China, because the Chinese news media is notorious for being guarded and secretive. They don't tell the whole world what's going on in their country. If we're reading about this, it's because they very much want the world to know about it for whatever reason. China's not known for kissing and telling when it comes to what they're up to. So if they say it's already mature in laboratory settings, I would believe them. Now needs integration into a humanoid form to enable real human-robot interaction during pregnancy, according to Oddity Central. I keep thinking of the Bible. The Nephilim were the result of the Watchers having sex with, Watchers were basically the sons of God, the fellow Elohim. They had sex with human women, and that resulted in giants who were called Nephilim. And according to the late Dr. Michael Heiser, the reason God wiped out the human race and the reason for all the bloody wars involving Joshua and Jericho and all that was to wipe out the giants, the Nephilim, because these were an abomination to the Lord. It was messing with the basic structure of his creation. He did not like this. And so it seems we're kind of doing the same thing now with this. And it wasn't just that these Watchers were creating hybrid beings, that these hybrid beings, these Nephilim, they were very violent and lustful and amoral. And they promoted, negative things, violence, destruction, rape, murder, overindulgence, you name it. And so the commonality with the subject at hand is it's not just about messing with, the basic human structure, the basic, natural process, but it's also the mentality around it, the devolving of our amoral decisions. These scientists, where they go when they don't have morals, and they're like, oh, we're just making things more convenient for people. We're just improving things. We're just improving society, just making things better, making people better. That's the way they present it, all nice and warm and fuzzy. And that's exactly where this is all leading. It's leading to the creation of the quote-unquote perfect man, the perfect being, the perfect society, also known as the most profoundly controlled society, where everyone is a total non-autonomous slave. And they're all going to be walking around with smiles on their face and looking in the mirror at how perfect they look. This is all part of the transhuman agenda. Transhumanism is a philosophical and intellectual movement that advocates the enhancement of the human condition by developing and making widely available new and future technologies that can greatly enhance longevity, cognition, and well-being. Well-being, and who decides what well-being is? I'm guessing the scientist or whatever, the person behind the technology who is developing it. They're going to go, well, we've got this great new thing for your well-being that we're going to implement. If that's okay with you, while you're in the womb, we're going to make this decision. And it's interesting to note that the creators of the Matrix were these two guys that are now women. They are both transgender. How often does that happen? Two people make one of the greatest sci-fi movies of our time, addressing some of the most profound fears and dangers And they end up being part of the post-human, transhuman agenda, literally. If we look at the obvious aggressive push on society to normalize the transgender process, it doesn't matter how I was made by nature. It doesn't matter how I was made by God. We can always alter it and become something else because we are nature. We are God. Why shouldn't we have those powers too? That's where it's all heading. We're trying to replace our creator. So to say that it's a middle finger in the face of the creator is an understatement. It's basically saying you don't exist. You're not even there. It's just us. If I have any subscribers or watchers who are part of the transgender movement or who get offended by the things I'm saying, let me just address you for a moment, okay? As a Christian, I believe we are all sinners. You are no worse a sinner than I. Nobody's perfect. What I'm talking about here is society unnaturally pushing something onto us. In other words, if society starts pushing, people with beehive hairdos, okay, and you see it everywhere, beehive hairdos, beehive hairdos, beehive hairdos, eventually everyone's going to start having beehive hairdos. So the idea here is that if we push anything, everyone's going to start doing it. And that's what they're doing with this transgender thing. They're really pushing it to unnaturally highlight it. And what happens is it becomes so normal that, like teenagers are like, oh yeah, I want to cut my penis off because I don't feel like a man. And then 10 years later, they develop more fully. They become an adult. They go, wait a minute. No, that's not what I want. But it's too late. So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. So this isn't about hatred towards gays or hatred towards even transgenders. We're all children of God. And being sort of a former member of the freaks and weirdos of society myself, I'm not trying to alienate any particular group here, but the thing that we all have in common is that we're all human beings who are victims of a power structure that's trying to control us. And we've got to recognize how we are manipulated, how they manipulate us through our feelings, and they try to deceive us into thinking they're trying to liberate us when actually they're trying to oppress us. One of my favorite quotes from Malcolm X is, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. That's happening today. Remember that when you pick up the paper, when you look at Yahoo News or CNN or Associated Press, the New York Times, Newsweek. Remember this quote, please. Qi Feng anticipates that a prototype of his pregnancy robot will be ready within a year, priced at under $13,900. On the topic of ethical and legal considerations, he said discussions have already been held with authorities in Guangdong province, and related proposals have been submitted as part of ongoing policy and legislative deliberations, reports Chosun Biz. Artificial wombs have shown promising results in animal studies. In 2017, researchers at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia successfully nurtured a premature lamb, equivalent to 23 weeks of human pregnancy, in a biobag, a transparent vinyl sac filled with warm saline-based artificial amniotic fluid. Nutrients were delivered via a tube attached to the umbilical cord, allowing the lamb to grow wool within 4 weeks, according to Chosun Biz. Lamb of God. That's kind of interesting. Symbolism there. However, current artificial wombs function more like neonatal incubators, supporting life only after partial gestation. For Dr. Zhang's concept to work, the technology must advance to support fertilization, implantation, and full-term pregnancy. Implantation, that sounds like sex to me. It sounds like a penis going into a vagina, I think. Unless I'm reading into this too much. I don't want to go and do that, do I? Full-term pregnancy details he did not disclose, leaving questions about the scientific, ethical, and legal challenges ahead. You don't say. Another notable development showcased at the 2025 World Robot Conference is the world's first AI-powered breeding robot, integrating artificial intelligence and biotechnology to revolutionize crop breeding. Crop breeding. What, are humans a crop now? You're a crop that is to be bred in a field. Led researchers at the Institute of Genetics and Development Biology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, the team used gene editing to create male sterile flowers, enabling the robot to produce hybrid seeds efficiently, combined with advanced methods like de novo domestication and speed breeding. Can't make this shit up. GEAIR forms the world's first intelligent robotic breeding factory, capable of rapidly generating high-quality plant varieties. I know we're talking about plants, but we just got done we're talking about this in the context of breeding humans in robots' stomachs and in laboratory scenarios. You know, they're making a connection here. GEAIR has already been applied to develop a male sterile soybean system, potentially boosting China's hybrid breeding capacity and crop yields. Zhu noted that the project establishes a closed-loop system for intelligent, fully autonomous robotic breeding, pioneering AI-driven agriculture. According to researchers, with biotechnology as the foundation, AI as the driver, and robotics as the operator, the innovation demonstrates China's leading role in emerging AI with biological breeding. The president, Donald Trump, has been talking a lot about trying to get the U.S. funding behind AI to win the race to. It's kind of like the space race of the 60s. There was this big urgency between Russia and America to become the first to go to the moon because it represented this big leap forward, this big technological leap forward, and whoever could do it first was basically superior, the superior power. So the same thing is happening right now with AI. America is racing China this time to be the lead of AI. And when China allows something like this to come out, you can bet that there's definitely a side of it where they're saying we are the superpower. You know, look at how far ahead we are. We're going to be breeding you soon. You're not even going to be around because, you know, we're going to have a farm where that's where your future babies are going to come from. I mean, and when you think of power and the ability to wield power, you've got to imagine that someone who is seeking to wield the most power over humanity is going to be salivating at this whole concept, and they're going to want to be right on top of it at the very lead.